have the writings on the rock. This is another source. We call epigraphy, or rock inscriptions. This is another source for your history. It's so precious. Look at, so Alchi, I went there, and it's wonderful. Alchi must have been in the imperial period, right, the Pugyal period, right, Tibetan Empire period, 7th to 9th century. It must have been a very important army base of operations. One of the most important titles is Tongbun, Satanara Tun, Da Punapun. But they spell it often the old way, Tongbun, without the Da, without the Nyungyik. It's just Tongbun, P-O-N, Pa Narabun. This is an old spelling we find in old Tibetan literature. So this is a good indication. And the form of writing, the style, also the spelling, the style, really quite strongly indicates imperial period. And the titles, Tongbun. In Nari Korsum period, Tempa Chidar, the second diffusion of Buddhism, we don't find references to Shanglun. We don't find references to Tongbun. I went through, from what I can see, there was an excellent book written by a scholar named Roberto Vitali, an Italian, in 1996. It's a big, thick book on Nari, a lot on Ladakh. If you're interested in Ladakh history, you really have to have that book. And I went through the whole book. I have a computer copy. Roberto is a friend of mine. I have a computer copy, and I went through, I searched. There wasn't one reference to Tongbun. There wasn't one reference to Shanglun. And so, quite clearly, when you look at that, with the spelling and the inscription, Alchi is an imperial period site. This is when Buddhism, this is when your Buddhism, of your Tibetan Buddhism, this is when your Tibetan Buddhism begins. But you destroyed most of it. Not good. Not good. And you know, and this is why you have to take good action, and nice action, compassionate action, and educate the villagers, tell them, help them. You know, maybe they can make money from tourism or whatever, but destroying, we lost so much. Anyway, it seems like Alchi was some kind of garrison or military, some kind of makar, or some kind of trom, because we see it says Tongbunki Trom. Trom, now we think of Trom as like market, or Trom can mean a multitude of people, but Trom also means in that period a kind of a military headquarters for the imperial armies. And then interesting enough, in Alchi we have a draw, I guess it's Skalden, right? Draw Skalden, Shedap, and draw Sultum Ut. These are also studied by Snellgrove, Skorupski, Robbie Vitali. And so they're the founders, these two men, Kalden, Dro Kalden and Dro Sultum. They were the founders of, they were very important in the foundation of Alchi. But in the inscriptions, we also have mention of the Dro, right? Barata, not a Dro. According to Chinese sources, early Tibetan sources, the Dro came from Shangshu. The Dro came from Shangshu. And there's other, Chok is mentioned, Chokro, another early and very important imperial clan, Chokro, Chanaro Chokachok, sometimes Ro, there's different spellings. Another clan I saw was Merwa. There's been some written about, there's been some Western translations of inscriptions, some of them, I don't know about all of them. Merwa was another clan, Samapta Dengo Mer, Bawa, Merwa, and Kyungpo. So clearly there were a number of these imperial era clans that are mentioned, they're attested in various Tibetan sources. And these were important military people. They were Tongbun. There's a wonderful, let's see, let's find it here. Let's look at some of these. Okay, here we have one, right? We see, just follow me, right? We see Tak, right? Tak Gun, Tong, Sataka Tak, Tak Gun, we have here Gun, Ki Lola, Tak Ki Lola, Tung Bun, Ki, Tung Bun, Gyalwa Yeshi. So here, Gyalwa Yeshi is not a Bonpo name. No, it's a Buddhist name, right? So this site, Alchi, was so important. This is like when you have a baby in the womb. This is when the Buddhism was still in Mama, the Praja Pradamita was still in, you know, the side of the egg. This is the beginning of, you know, this is really, the site is so sacred. Those boulders are so sacred. It's recording the beginning of Tibetan Buddhism here. It's not It's not Drukpa Kaju, it's not Gelupa, it's not Nyingma. It's the original. It's that imperial period. It became Nyingma, and it became the Karjupa lineages later. It's the same lineage, right? Chantar Rakshita, Guru Rinpoche, but this is the original Buddhism. So very, and a lot of this was destroyed. Some is left. These rocks are so valuable because it's a heart. It's a beginning. It's the beginning of your Buddhism. And it's not just about Buddhism. It's history, right? It's for everyone. This is for even me. I'm a Westerner, right? Oh, maybe you're a Muslim. Maybe you're from another religion. But still, this is a world. This has value for the world, right? This is so precious. We do not find, with very few exceptions, we do not find such inscriptions in Tibet. It seems as though Zhang, at least culturally, when we look at the rock art, etc., it extended up to maybe Gya, this side, Maru, Gya, Upper Ladakh. Lower Ladakh, Sham, was probably an area with early Tibeto-Burman influences, but other influences too. So they acted probably as conquerors, and they came there, but they adopted Buddhism as a religion. So, and this is just one site. I bet you there's at least 100 sites with ancient inscriptions in Tibetan and in other languages. It'd be very important to collect, make a karchak, a gazetteer, an inventory, whatever you want to call it, of all the early inscriptions before they disappear, before they get broken. And they were breaking them. They're just knocking the Alti people and smashing the rocks. Villagers, no guidance from ASI, no guidance from the government, And this is unfortunate. Anyway, I want to show you a few more. I don't want to belabor it, but you can. I want to show you a few things here, if I may. There's a wonderful one here, Shanglun. If I can find it. Let's just go through these real quick. These are just a few. I grabbed them this morning. I just looked this morning. Tongbun, Gyawa Yeshi, Ki, Shangsu, Sangshu Sulma, right? This is done in dedication, religious dedication, these shortens, by a man named Tongbun Gyawa Yeshi. I don't think it's the same Gyawa Yeshi. It's very interesting. Two different writings. It's not the same handwriting, but the name is the same. They're both Tongbuns, and they're both Gyawa Yeshi. Let's continue here. How do I go to, can I go to the next picture directly, or do I have to close every time? Oh, here we go. There's your arrow. Very good. Here we have one. It looks like Tongbun Sonam. This is not a Bonpo. Definitely Buddhist. There's no Sonam Bonpos that I know of in anything. Right? Sonam, right? And Sonam, right? Sonam, J, J. So it's Sonam J, his imprint, his mark, J, right? Shabje, Chabje. It's an old word. It means not just Chabje and Shabje. Chabje is the mark, right? His mark, his art, his right inscription. J, right? Shang Su Solwa, right? So there's a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to go through them, but you see there are many Tongbuns. Here's a Lun Sen Choku. Maybe Choku. This may be the Choku clan. This may be in reference to the clan. Shanglun Chempu. So here's Shanglun. The Shanglun were very important. They were the top ministers in the imperial period. The Shanglun. Shangbu, right? Ashang, Aku. This is Ashang. Ashang is the mother's side. The most trusted advisors of the Sempo, they were the Sempo, these Pugapu, they were called Sempo, right? And they were, most trusted advisors came from the mother's side. So these Shanglun were related either symbolically or genealogically from the mother's side. And here we have, this is not just a Shanglun, this is a Shanglun Chempo. Their Shanglun is much bigger. He wants to be the interface between the army, the big generals, and the Pugyal administration in Lhasa, the Sempo in Lhasa at that time. So this is wonderful. Thank goodness this didn't get destroyed, right? It's so important, wonderful. Such a high-ranking officer, right? And he's, even him, Chi, right? It says very clearly he drew those chortens, right? So an act of devotion, a Buddhist act of devotion by a very high official. And like I say, thank good it survived. I now, from what I understand, because of the good work of some people, the residents of Alchi now understand, and they're going to decide to preserve the boulders. But you have a magnificent history. You know, that Zhang, maybe he stayed. He might be one of your ancestors. And those Tongbens and those inscriptions, you may be related to them, right? And you know, all around, you know, whether you know, all of these noble lineages from Tibet, from Central Asia, right, from the West. You know, that's part of who you are, right? You know, and the beauty of this is for everyone can do this. It's not just you know, it's not just for Buddhists, not just for modern people. Maybe they don't care about religion. It's not just for Musulman. It's for everyone, for all Ladakhis. And this gives every Ladakhi a very nice focus. It's non-sectarian, non-economic, and really should be non-political. And it should be really about recovering and understanding of who you are in your history.